Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Political Excess. With less than 5 weeks to go until the general election, let's do another weekly poll recap and see what we've got. So let's get on Real Clear Politics. And for Friday, first up, we've got a poll from Emerson with 1,000 likely voters for Pennsylvania Senate and Governor. That shows Fetterman up 2 points, 45 to 43 over Dr. Oz. For Governor, Shapiro is up pretty big, 10 points, 51 to 41 over Doug Mastriano. These Pennsylvania races are fascinating for me because we're seeing that Senate race get a little bit tighter as the weeks go on, and the governor's race seems to be going in the other direction. If that's true, there's a lot of split-ticket voting going on. Many polls for that Senate are now in the low to mid-single digits, and for governor, many of them are over 10 points. There's a lot of polls to get through, so let's move on to Missouri, U.S. Senate, another poll from Emerson. That shows Eric Schmidt, the Republican, with an 11-point lead, 49 to 38 over Trudy Busch Valentine. That's pretty much in line with what we've been seeing out of Missouri. It's not too far off, really, from what I expect the final results to be. Here's a new one from Michigan Source News with Trafalgar, I guess. But it shows Gretchen Whitmer up 6 points, 51 to 45 over Tudor Dixon. Most of the Michigan polls, they do show Whitmer with a healthy lead. Some cases it's overwhelming, well into double digits. It's hard to picture Whitmer winning that by double digits, but I suppose it's possible. Dixon is collapsing and it does turn into a landslide. At this point, Republicans might start to be thinking about waiting 4 more years until it's an open seat. But there's still plenty of time, over a month left, for something to change. Next up is Connecticut, U.S. Senate and Governor, with 626 likely voters from CT Insider. Richard Blumenthal's up 13, 53 to 40 over Leora Levy. Ned Lamont is up 15, 55 to 40 over Bob Stefanowski. That's also pretty much what we've been seeing. The Democrats are heavily favored to win both of those races. I'll skip over the generic congressional ballot and Trump versus Biden and Biden approval ratings. Let's get down to some more state races here on Thursday. And we've got some Fox News polls for Arizona, Senate, and Governor. Shows Mark Kelly up a modest 5 points, 47 to 42 over Blake Masters. And Kerry Lake is up 1, 46 to 45 over Katie Hobbs. That also doesn't seem too far off from what I'm expecting at this point. I think Lake does have a little bit of an advantage, and I think Kelly also does have an edge. Nobody has 50% or even 48% in these two races from this Fox poll. So we'll have to see where the late deciding voters, which way they end up going. And then we've got Wisconsin, U.S. Senate and Governor. There's one from Fox here and from Fabrizio Anzalone. The Fox poll shows Ron Johnson up 5 points, 50 to 45 over Mandela Barnes. It shows Tim Michaels up 47 to 49 over Tony Evers. And that Fabrizio Anzalone poll also shows Ron Johnson up 5, 51 to 46. And Tim Michaels is up 3, 50 to 47 over Tony Evers. So over the last few weeks or month has seemed to shift steadily in favor of the Republicans by anywhere from 3 or 4 points. Most polls do now show Ron Johnson actually with a lead, and Tim Michaels actually now is starting to edge out Evers. That is more in line with what my prediction has been. I still think they're going to be close races, especially for governor, as these polls do indicate they're tighter than the U.S. Senate race. But apparently Ron Johnson, he does surge late in the game. He was down months ago, just like he was 6 years ago. At this point, I would rather be Ron Johnson and Tim Michaels in Wisconsin. Here's another Pennsylvania Senate and Governor poll from Franklin and Marshall. That has Fetterman up 4 points, 47 to 43 over Dr. Oz. And Shapiro, he's up double digits again, 10 points, 52 to 42. That is similar to that Emerson poll from yesterday. And all indications are the Senate race will be much closer than that governor's race. And in Pennsylvania, you would rather be the Democrats than the Republicans. But there is time for anything to happen. Next, there is a poll from Signal for North Carolina U.S. Senate. That shows a tied race, 44 apiece for Ted Budd and Sherry Beasley, with neither of them even at 45% in that poll. There's just too many undecideds, and I would still think that Ted Budd is favored to win by anywhere from 2 to 5 points. But I don't think Sherry Beasley is going to give up, but there's just too many things stacked against her to win it this year in North Carolina. Next, we've got New Hampshire Senate. That has Maggie Hassan up 9 points, 50 to 41 over Don Bolduc. That's pretty consistent with what we've been seeing. Roughly high single digits for Hassan. I would expect it to be a little bit under that, maybe mid-single digits. But that one is pulling away from the Republicans. They thought they might be able to flip it. They still could. There is an outside chance, but it's looking like the Democrats are likely to hold in New Hampshire. And for governor, that one is no surprise. Chris Sununu is up 17 points, 53 to 36 over Tom Sherman. I don't think Tom Sherman has any chance in that race. And here's a poll for Oregon governor from Clout Research. Only 422 likely voters, not a huge sample size, but that has Christine Drazan, the Republican, up 4 points, 39 to 35, over Tina Kotek, and Betsy Johnson is at 16%. There's still 8% undecided in that poll. It's a large margin of error. It does indicate a very tight race. Johnson might be falling a little bit behind. Some of those voters may end up switching back to Tina Kotek if they think Christine Drazan might actually win it. So there's probably going to be a lot of late decideds switching in that race, depending on if Betsy Johnson ends up fizzling out here in the final few weeks. Back on Wednesday, we've got Fox News polls for Georgia Senate and Governor. These are more or less similar to what we've been seeing. This has Raphael Warnock up 4 points, 47 to 43 over Herschel Walker. Still another poll with Warnock way under 50%. It does have Brian Kemp up 7, 51 to 44 over Stacey Abrams. That is fairly consistent with what we've been seeing from Kemp. He might win it by under 7, that's possible. Or it actually could end up getting into the mid to high single digits. Fox did the Pennsylvania races on Wednesday as well. They had Fetterman up 4 points, 48 to 44. Josh Shapiro was up 11, 53 to 42. Those are similar to the other Pennsylvania polls from this week. Here's some Marist polls for Arizona Governor and Senate. Mark Kelly is up 5 there, 50 to 45. Kerry Lake is up 3, 49 to 46 over Katie Hobbs. That is also in line with what we've been seeing and what I expect to see out of Arizona. Public policy polling, they have a poll, 574 likely voters for Wisconsin. That shows a tie with Ron Johnson and Mandela Barnes at 47 apiece. That has Tony Evers up 2, 48 to 46 over Tim Michaels. That actually is one of the more favorable polls for the Democrats in recent weeks out of Wisconsin. But even PPP is showing a little bit of a shift toward the Republicans, even if it is extremely close. Here's another poll for Oregon governor. That shows Christine Drazan up 1, 32 to 31 over Tina Kotek. Betsy Johnson is at 18 there. That is similar to the other poll I just mentioned for Oregon. I think the Democrats are still favored in the end, but it's really going to be a fascinating final month of the campaign. Next, in Colorado, Trafalgar polled U.S. Senate and Governor. They had Michael Bennet up only 6 points, 49 to 43 over Joe O'Dea. Jared Polis is up 8, 49 to 41 over Heidi Ganahl. I would expect them to both to win it by 2 to 3 points more than that. Polis is expected to outperform Bennett, but I still don't think Bennett is really in much danger. He should win that probably in the high single digits, could be mid-single digits when it's all said and done. Next, Quinnipiac polled Texas Governor. Greg Abbott is up 7, 53 to 46 over Beto O'Rourke. That is basically in line with what I expect. Abbott is going to win probably by at least 7 points. And for U.S. Senate in Washington, PPP, they polled that race. Patty Murray is up 12, 52 to 40 over Tiffany Smiley. There has been some polls showing that race a little tighter. I wasn't really buying it. It might be tighter than previous years. That's true. But I still think Patty Murray is going to win it by at least 10 points. And we finally got some polls out of Illinois for Senate and Governor. From Emerson, that shows Tammy Duckworth up really big, 19 points. 50 to 31 over Kathy Salvi. And for Governor, Pritzker is up 15 points over Darren Bailey, 51 to 36. So those races are largely uncompetitive, and it's tough to imagine those Republicans making up that kind of ground with 5 weeks to go. And back from Tuesday and Monday, you can look at these if you'd like. A lot of them are ones I've already mentioned. Arizona, Pennsylvania, Texas. But here's another poll from Maine. It shows Janet Mills up 14, 53 to 39 over Paul LePage. Whatever polls we've gotten out of Maine has consistently shown Mills with a healthy lead. So Paul LePage, he might be falling out of it at this point because he does not look like he's favored to win at all. And back on Monday, you've got Pennsylvania, you've got Ohio. Take a look at those if you'd like. There's a Trafalgar poll that shows Patty Murray only up 2 in Washington, 49 to 47. That seems unbelievable to me, but I did want to point that out. And finally, the last one I'll mention here is another poll for Oklahoma governor. Kevin Stitt is up only 3 points, 47 to 44 over Joy Hoffmeister. This is the second poll now for Oklahoma that has shown a very close governor's race. I still expect it to be at least in the high single digits for the Republicans, but if you are from Oklahoma, this race could be narrowing up more than we would have expected. Anyway, that is a recap of the polls from the previous week. Let me know in the comments if any of these polls changed any of the races for you, any trends, any momentum switching. Let me know down below. And if you enjoy this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.